Hello and welcome, esteemed guests, to my channel. My name is Ainsley. Let's do stuff. Today we are doing another video in my EA But Make It Gay series, and given that it is Pride Month, I was super excited to jump back into this series. I mentioned the last time I did one that I had my sights set on Johnny Zest, so that's what we're doing this time. I'm doing a reimagining of Johnny Zest as a trans man. When I was looking through all of the Townies trying to decide which households would suit these kinds of videos best, I was really drawn to Johnny and his story. I feel like there's a lot of potential where, he's given himself a new name, he's been disowned by the land grabs. Part of that definitely, of course, could just be that he dropped out of college to become a comedian, but I also really like the idea that it's because he left a home environment that wasn't supportive of his transition. And you know that Nancy Landgrab feels like the type of girl who would do something like that. Like, Nancy's got that, I don't know, snobby thing about her. I'm saying that. I don't play the land grabs very often, but you see her around town, you form opinions. So basically what I did to do this kind of townie makeover, I just switched the custom gender settings to have a feminine frame, and then I pulled up a picture of Johnny Zest just on Google to compare the face structure, because it does change quite a bit when you change those custom gender settings. So I just was kind of referencing that to get something that was closer than what it defaulted to when I changed the gender settings. I also really wanted to keep that iconic sort of soul patch with the facial hair, because I feel like that's what's recognizable about Johnny Zest, but I didn't love the look of it, but I liked this goatee a lot. It did cover his beauty mark, so I just moved a beauty mark to the cheek where you could see it as kind of a bit of a workaround for that. I wanted to keep his sort of red, green, blue color palette going, because I find sometimes with townie makeovers, if you get too out there, they're not recognizable anymore. And I also wanted to keep him in that sort of sports jacket and dress pant look, because I didn't actually mind it, I just wanted to update it a bit. So I just changed the plaid for the trousers instead of the blazer. Now, when we're looking at swimwear, in my mind, given the backstory I have for Johnny, I didn't imagine that he'd had top surgery. He probably, if he was disowned by the land grabs, doesn't have the money, and I don't know what Sims medical insurance covers and what it doesn't, but in my mind he wouldn't. So I tried to find something that would work as like a neutral flesh tone binders, because you can get those for swimming, but I couldn't find anything, so I settled on like a little crop top and made it just part of the look. And that CC beanie that has the trans flag, I couldn't get it to work because it clipped with his hair, so I gave him a summer outfit that has the little face paints. Maybe it's his look for Oasis Springs Pride. And I was also really taken with the idea of him having a dog. I just felt like, I don't know, if you're out on your own trying to make your own way, I feel like you'd have a dog or some kind of animal companion to keep you company and to be your new family. So I was really in love with the idea of a bull terrier. I tried a couple different breeds. I knew I wanted it to be a small dog, but the bull terrier really just captivated me. It screamed Johnny Zest for some reason. And I also gave the dog a docked tail, because I thought maybe it was a rescue dog and somebody would have docked the tail, because I know you're not supposed to, or at least I think I know you're not supposed to. I don't know all the ins and outs of what you're supposed to do with dogs and not. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, this is probably old news to you, but I actually just recently got cats and dogs, so this is the first time that I'm playing around with the pattern tool or with Create a Sim at all for the dog, so I really wanted to give her a unique coat. And then I gave her a pink collar and a cute little pink dinosaur onesie as a secondary outfit, and I called her Ella, and I made her loyal and stubborn and playful, because I felt like that suited Johnny Zest's personality too. And now we're moving on to the build, or it's actually kind of a renovation. I had from very early on, maybe a few weeks ago, the clear idea of what I wanted to do for this. So you see that dinosaur in the background? I was kind of imagining that it was the leftover remnants of some kind of carnival or like fairground, and that this trailer that Johnny Zest was living in was the, not manager, but you know what I mean, the person who looks after the fairgrounds. It was their kind of office, but the carnival or fair or whatever it is has since kind of gone under. So all that's left is the old remnants of some of the props that they would have had, as well as this old manager's or site manager's cabin that Johnny's kind of renovated into his house. I couldn't pass up the opportunity to use that giant rainbow prop that came with Get Famous. And I wasn't sure when I first saw it in the catalog how I was going to use it, but I really think it suits this build. Especially because the interior of this place is actually really mature and adult, and it's very kind of, there's a lot of black and a lot of pale light wood, but it's a very sophisticated place, so it definitely doesn't scream rainbow on the inside, and I think that juxtaposition is really cool. And I think it's really in contrast to the apartment build I did recently, the girlfriend's first place, where that on the inside is very decked out in rainbow and pride flags, whereas Johnny's space is kind of a spot for him to not have to think about any of that. It's kind of his haven where things are clean and sophisticated and as adult as they can be, while he's trying to kind of make his own way. I feel like the money that he put into renovating the inside of this place was kind of everything that he had, every bit of savings that were in his name that weren't like locked up in trust funds or frozen until he turned like 25. He put that into the inside of the place, which is why it looks so nice and clean and streamlined, whereas you still have, you know, the giant rainbow and the giant toy box props in the yard because they were too expensive to have someone haul off once he put all the work into the house. I played around with the wardrobe for a while. I wasn't sure what I wanted to put or where I wanted to put it. What ends up going there isn't what I finally end up using. I change it off camera as I'm putting in the last kind of details. This is the second build where I've done the last final sweep of detailing off camera, and I'm finding it's actually a lot easier for me to do that way. Let me know in the comments below for sure if you were preferring when I was doing it on camera, if that's something you like to see. But for me, I find I was thinking too much about it and I was being too conscious that I was being recorded. So taking, you know, a half an hour to just go through and do the little cluttering details is actually really helpful in my building process. You'll see the final result in the screenshots anyway, and like that bathroom actually ends up getting a window. It's like a skinny narrow one above the shower because I just didn't like the idea of not having a window, even though I'm sure plenty of people have bathrooms with no windows. And then I changed the paneling on the walls. I kept it a dark kind of almost black wood, but it just looks a little bit more sophisticated. The timber is a little more sophisticated looking. I think it's because the timber is wider and not those long narrow ones, because I think those look a little cheaper. And then I actually went on the outside of the build and I intentionally tried to make that look cheaper because I thought the original structure that someone would have put in, you know, the carnival or fairground owner probably wouldn't have been shelling out for something really nice. It was probably going to be, you know, the most ramshackle siding and, you know, just an average kind of roof. So that's kind of what I went with. And I also changed the windows for that reason too, because I didn't think they'd be that nice. And now I haven't lived long term in a desert environment, so I don't know if you would get kind of ivy or some kind of climbing plant on the outside of a building that hasn't been in use for a while, like you would in some more mild or temperate climates. But I did include it because I thought it spoke to the disuse of the place, and I hated that you couldn't put those little windows 3 across because that would have looked so perfect. So I went with these larger ones instead, which, you know, maybe aren't as cheap as I was going for, but these windows here from Cats and Dogs that I'm putting in, I really debated putting that rainbow door. I think that would have been cool, but I thought it might have been a bit overkill. And for sure, Johnny could have easily repainted it. It's not the same hassle it is to get someone to come and actually physically remove those props, so I went with a plain door instead. And I almost forgot to include the microphone, but I didn't, so there is a microphone there for him to practice his comedy, and there's a laptop so he can write jokes. I like this little writing nook corner that I made at the breakfast bar with a laptop, and I put, for clutter, a notebook and a little pencil holder, so I think that's probably where he does, you know, all of his joke writing, and that's kind of really cool. I play tested that laptop to make sure it works, and there might might be slight routing issues. Like when I clicked the computer and asked to write jokes, it wouldn't. But if I got him to sit on the stool and then use the computer, there wasn't a problem. So I don't know if it's just that particular location or if it's just I was having a buggy day, because I find my game kind of is a little bit glitchy. I think that's a complaint I'm hearing from a lot of people. But the good news is with a laptop you can take it anywhere. And then with these shelves, I actually only cluttered it with things that would snap to it, because when you have the walls cut away, those shelves disappear, and I just hate having things that float. So I don't like putting things on shelves that the wall doesn't constantly stay up for that reason. And then I cluttered a bit the back of the toilet tank and the sink. I really like doing that. I know the back of my toilet tank is always full. And this basically brings us into the screenshots. So I added a little sized up truck in front and a little barbecue and picnic table out front, because there was that seating area in the original build. And any of the last minute clutter that you didn't see me put in, you can see in the screenshots as well. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you're enjoying this EA But Make It Gay series. I have a few other ideas brewing. The BFF household is definitely next on my list. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and comment down below, as well as share it with your friends and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate all the interaction I have from you. The music in this video, as always, was done by Chucky. I'll link his SoundCloud below. And until next time, happy Pride, and get out there and do stuff.